Congratulations on your HyperScorpion e-bike purchase! Assembling your new bike is fairly simple and should take less than 1 hour. Start by checking the outer box to ensure there isn't any shipping damage. Open the bike box and remove the foam padding from on top of the bike. Carefully remove the parts accessory box and front wheel. The parts accessory box will include 3 wrenches, 1 tri-Allen wrench, 2 tri-socket wrenches, a front reflector, 2 rear axle caps, 2 washers, 1 nut, 1 long bolt, the front axle, a right and left pedal, the headlight, 2 mirrors, 1 horn, 1 alarm set, and the battery charger. You will also need a pair of scissors or flat side cutters to complete your bike assembly, and a bike pump to add air to the tires if needed. Carefully lift the bike out of the box, holding on to the rear rack and the front fork. Place the bike on the ground, resting it on the fork saver and rear wheel. Carefully check the bike for any shipping damage. Remove the packaging material from around the bike. And remove the front fender that's attached to the rear fender. Then remove the wood from the rear rack by hand. To install the front wheel, use the 15mm wrench and the 15mm side of the tri-socket wrench to remove the fork saver. Locate the axle in the parts accessory box and then remove the nut, washer, and spacer from the side with the smallest spacer. Insert the axle on the drive side of the front wheel. Without touching the rotor, place the spacer, washer, and nut on the other side of the axle. Remove the brake pad spacer from the front brake pads. Insert the wheel into the dropouts, making sure the spacers are inside the dropouts and the washers and nuts are on the outside. The rotor should slide in between the brake pads and the axle should go into the dropouts fully. Start tightening the nuts at the same time for a few turns by hand. Then use both 15mm wrenches to fully tighten the nuts. Once the wheel is fully installed, put the kickstand down. To install the front fender, locate the long bolt, 2 washers, the nut, and the reflector from the parts accessory box. You will also need the tri-Allen tool and the 10mm wrench. Remove the fender stay bolts and washers from the front fork with the 4mm side of the tri-Allen tool. Put the washer and the long bolt through the front reflector. Then slide the fender over the front wheel and put the reflector through the arch of the fork. Place the washer and nut on the back of the reflector. Tighten the nut on the back of the reflector using the 10mm wrench and tighten the front using the 5mm Allen side of the tri-tool. Locate the bolts and washers for the fender stays and place the washers on the bolts. Insert them through each eyelet and tighten with the 4mm Allen side of the tri-tool. To install the handlebars, use the 4mm Allen side to loosen the stem bolts on the front of the plate. Remove the front plate and bolts. Position the handlebars upright so that the brake levers face forward and the LCD screen is on the right side. Place the front plate and stem bolts on the front of the handlebars. Be sure to center the handlebars over the fork. Start to equally tighten bolts by hand so that the plate stays in place. Then use the 4mm side of the tri-tool to completely tighten the bolts evenly. Make sure the gap between the faceplate and stem is evenly spaced. To install the headlight, locate the tri-tool and the horn. Remove the bolts from both sides of the front headlight clamp using the 5mm side of the tri-tool. Then take the headlight and place it on the bike, being sure that all wires are behind the light and in between the brackets. On the right side of the bike, place the headlight bracket on the outside of the clamps. Insert the shorter bolts into the eye holes and begin to tighten by hand. Then tighten with the 5mm side of the tri-tool, but do not fully tighten. Place the horn on the left side of the bike on the outside of the clamp. Then place the headlight bracket on the outside of the horn, being sure to line up the eye holes. Insert the longer bolts into the eye holes and begin to tighten with the 5mm side of the tri-tool. Be sure the headlight clamps are even on both sides so that the headlight is straight, and then fully tighten the bolts on each side. To connect the headlight, locate the two wires with yellow ends and line up the arrows to connect them. To connect the bike's right turn signal, locate the red end male wire that is attached to the right turn signal. Then locate the red end female wire and line up the arrows to connect them. To connect the bike's left turn signal, locate the red end female wire that is attached to the left turn signal. Then locate the last red end male wire and line up the arrows to connect them. To connect the horn, locate the wires with rectangular ends. Connect the black end to the top metal prong on the horn and the red end to the bottom metal prong. To install the alarm, locate it in the parts accessory box and remove it from its packaging. Place double-sided tape on the back of the alarm. Then attach the alarm to the rear of the bike between the frame and the controller. To install the mirrors, locate both in the parts accessory box and find the 14mm wrench. First, loosen the nut on the left mirror and then place it on the left side of the bike. Thread in the mirror and tighten the nut down by hand. Then use the 14mm wrench to fully tighten and put the cover down over the nut. To install the right mirror, loosen the nut and then place it on the right side of the bike. Thread in the mirror and tighten the nut down by hand. Then use the 14mm wrench to fully tighten and put the cover down. To install the pedals, locate both the right and left pedals in the parts accessory box and find the 15mm wrench. The left pedal will have the letter L on it and the right pedal will have R. Make sure you use the correct pedal on the correct side. They are not interchangeable. Insert the right pedal on the rider's right side of the bike and turn it clockwise until it's snug. On the rider's left side of the bike, insert the left pedal and tighten it counterclockwise. At this point, the pedals are not fully installed. Use the 15mm wrench to fully tighten each pedal. It's critical that the pedal be tightened firmly in the crank arm to prevent the pedals from loosening while riding, which will result in significant damage to the bike. Be sure to check the tire pressure and add air to the tires if needed. Before riding, double-check that all parts and bolts are secure on the bike. Place the axle nut covers found in the parts accessory box on both sides of the rear axle. Also check that the battery is fully locked into the frame. To turn on the bike, press the power button on the battery. Then put the key in the ignition and turn it to the right. You're all set to ride faster and farther on your new HyperScorpion e-bike from Juiced.